Hello and welcome to Cookery with Mason Storm. In this video we're going to look at making a casserole, specifically a tuna casserole, and I think my recipe is usually fairly easy to follow, so it's an easy quick meal that tastes delicious. So first we'll get our pot of water on the stove on high, get it ready to boil, and we can get everything else ready in the time it takes. So I use peas, onion, mushroom soup, and tuna, and a little bit of garlic to make my casserole. Oh yes, and of course we'll have our macaroni as well. I don't think it's necessary to necessarily use macaroni. I've made casseroles with other pastas and it's turned out pretty good. I think as long as it's something that you can get on your fork, okay, it's probably fine. If you have to cut it or something, it might be a little bit weird. Now I'm going to do a fine dice of onion. I like doing the fine dice because it makes the onion pieces a lot smaller and kind of blend in more with the mushroom sauce. Of course, by mushroom sauce I mean cream of mushroom soup, because we're not going all out today. Maybe next time. Homemade noodles, homemade mushroom sauce. Now that would be perfection. Okay, doing up our garlic here. Then once we're done with that, we'll get our stove turned on medium-high heat and get our skillet on there, a little bit of butter in the skillet, and then dump in our onion and garlic mixture and start cooking away. Now, I think it's not necessarily to do this, to pre-cook your onions in butter, but I like to. I think it makes the whole casserole go a little bit quicker, because otherwise you got to cook the onions in the oven, which takes longer. And seeing as our water is still not boiling anyway, it's not like we're doing anything. Also, cooking down your onions can really enhance the flavor, so it's faster and it can potentially taste better. It takes quite a while to boil all the water, so. Now, in theory, you could really cook these onions right down, like almost like caramelize them, and I think that would really be good in a casserole. You probably want more onions than this, though. Your ratio of onion to noodle would like to favor more onion, but maybe next time we'll try that. Then once I cook them for a little while, toss in the peas. The peas, these are frozen ones that I just got out of the freezer, so I'm just gonna pre-cook them a little bit more now. It takes a lot longer to cook the onions than it does to cook the peas, even though the peas are frozen. Because you still want your peas to have some bite when you bite into them. You don't want them to be like mush. And looking at our water now, looks like it's boiling. So it's time to toss in our noodles. Now, I wasn't using the whole box here, probably 2/3 of it. Just making a small amount of casserole for probably 1, 2, 3 people maybe. So nothing too crazy. If you wanted to go further, it's not a bad idea to have side dishes with your casserole. I'm going to be having a salad with mine. Stir your noodles so that nothing sticks, and then we can look back to what else we're doing, which is the onion pea mix. Just keep stirring that, and you can kind of tell how done it is by how firm the peas are. Once they kind of like soften up or whatever, then it's time to add the tuna to the mix, which I'm going to be doing here in a second. Now, when it comes to the cans of tuna, you usually want to just drain all the juice off of them. Although I have done it before where I left the juice in, and it kind of acts as kind of like a salt water, a fishy salt water. So it's really up to you if you want to do that, but it can be done. That way you don't have to add a bunch of salt later. Not for everybody. And just kind of cook that a bit. And here we are a few minutes later. Our water is boiling away, and I think our noodles are nearly done. I've tested them a few times now, just with the wooden spoon. You stick it in there, stir it, and then try to get like 1 or 2 out, and then bite into them and see how firm they are. I like to go for a bit of al dente when it comes to making my casseroles. Some people like to kind of cook them more to mush, but I don't think that's really the way to go. So that's done, pull it off and drain it over the sink. Now, something interesting about noodles and draining over the sink. If you pour cold water on your noodles, you'll stop them from cooking. And you might want to do that depending on what the situation is, because the noodles continue to cook even after you take all the water off of them. So if you don't want them burnt, sometimes you have to pour cold water on them. Usually when you're making a meal for a lot of people, that's kind of more of a concern. But into the dish we go. Then I'm going to mix in my my onion pea tuna fish combination, and then pour on the onion soup and try to mix everything together. The way that I should have did this was all in the pan, because this made a bit of a mess trying to stir because it was so overfilled. And it wasn't enough of it to make the next size up in pan size, so that was my mistake, but next time I'll know better what to do. And I think that's the key to cooking, is to constantly improve and try to learn from your mistakes. Or even better, learn from the mistakes of others. Only then can you achieve true perfection when it comes to making your casserole. So once I have this all mixed up, I'm going to add a little bit of spicing on the top. I'm going to put some black pepper on first, and then a little bit of Frank's Red Hot sauce. I think that kind of goes good with a casserole. If you don't like spicy things, don't do this. If you do, add lots. So there we go, into the oven we go. Now, because this casserole, everything's kind of pre-cooked in it, you can really eat it as is. Or if you want to get some color on the top, put your oven at 450 and put it in for 10 minutes, or oven on broiler. I put mine in at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. It just kind of lets it all kind of settle and cook. But depends how hungry you are or when you want to eat. So now that that's ready, I'll pull it out of the oven and get it on the tray. And it's piping hot right now, so we'll plate it and get our side dishes ready, and we'll have a nice meal. Pretty easy to do, very delicious. So why don't you tell me below in the comments how you make your casseroles, specifically your tuna casseroles. I'd be interested to find out. That marks the end of our video, so stay awesome. Oh, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this.